All right, welcome back to Keys. We are on part three of this video. I think this will be the final video. We should complete everything in this video. Why do Christians argue? And the hope is that Christians will put aside the differences and unite and be a people of justice, people who represent justice, people who use the talents that God has given them. When I say talents, I'm not just talking about your skills, I'm talking about your time and energy. You do not have time to argue. All of us are getting closer to death. By the end of this video, you will be closer to death. Some of y'all have 20, 30, 40 years left. Some of y'all got 20, 30, 40 weeks left. So you don't have time to argue with nobody. You don't have time to argue with people who haven't read the Bible. Some people feel like I'm saying, you have to read the whole Bible in order to be a Christian. I'm not saying none of that. I'm just saying I'm not going to argue with you if you haven't. Why would I, if I've dedicated my life and study to something, why would I argue with someone who hasn't even, set aside the time to read? It doesn't take that long. You could read the whole Bible and you could just, dedicate yourself and read the whole Bible in a month. Maybe that's a little. Maybe I'm talking like somebody who's a reader. You can read the whole Bible in 3 months. Let's put it that way. You can read the whole Bible in 3 months. 66 books in the Bible, 22, 44, 66, 22 books a month. A lot of those books are short, small. A lot of the books are interesting. Some of the books might be a little bit more boring, but if you haven't read it, you don't know in the first century Christianity, they had initiations. First of all, in the first century Christianity, they didn't have the 66 books of the Bible the way we did now. But they had initiations. When people came into the church, you could not come into the church and just start talking. It wasn't like you didn't have the privilege to just raise your hand and start talking. Doesn't mean you were any less of a Christian, but they had to make sure you were serious. Remember, the first century Christians, during many of the decades, they were being attacked by the Roman emperors. They're being thrown in the Colosseum. If someone snitches on where they're located at, they could be captured, and the whole church go to jail. Whole church go be fed to the lions. So this was some very serious stuff. You couldn't just walk up in there, and because you have had a spiritual revelation and decided to give your life over to God, now you have equal footing to talk about who's going to do what in the church and what needs to be done in the church. No, you had to put in some work and have some time. This is why I say y'all need to stop arguing and fighting with your ministers. Y'all, there's stuff I disagree with a lot of ministers and a lot of leaders. I'm not about to argue with them. They're dedicating their lives to the work. They're doing the work. They're meeting with the people. They're serving the people, ministering to the people. They're pushing this thing along when everybody else is dipping in and out of church. They're staying consistent. You got to respect that. I don't care what your personal feelings or agreements or disagreements are. Yeah, there was something called initiations in not only the first century, the first couple of centuries. It wasn't until a few centuries in that it really started becoming like this real organized version of Christianity. But initially, yeah, there's levels to this, is what I'm saying. Not as far as there's levels. I'm not saying there's like heavens, like the different people who's that who talks about the different heavens and different heavens that people can go to and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. And Judgment Day is always Judgment Day. No matter how, your heart's gonna be weighed. Your actions and your words and your thoughts gonna be judged. That's scary. That's scary. Dude, sometimes I think about Judgment Day and I'm like, man, I can't even think about if God were to ask me about why you did this or did you make it right with so and so. There's some people I can't make things right with. They're gone. I have to make it right within myself, but I still got to give an account for what was done. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Christianity, this Christianity thing is preparing you for death. That's the only thing. That's the only common denomination between all these religions. Even in Islam, they're still preparing you for it. They're still preparing you for the afterlife. That's all this stuff is talking about, the afterlife, and y'all want to argue over little simple stuff, silly stuff. Y'all want to be right. Y'all have this deep desire to be right, and Christ didn't even teach y'all that. Christ taught his disciples, if someone rejects your message, you move on. You do not see Christ argue with anybody. Christians, you do not argue with nobody because your Savior did not argue with anybody, okay? We're going to do it like that there. You do not argue with anybody. The other day I went into this Asian restaurant, and there was a brother in there. It was only black people in the Asian restaurant. Y'all know I focus on white supremacy on this page. We're attacking white supremacy. We're going against white supremacy. We're teaching about white supremacy so that we can break free from the chains and oppression that white supremacy has had on black people's mind. The battle's we're no longer in chains physically, but we're still in chains spiritually. Listen, if the black church had the answers, if the black church, the way we've been doing things, was going to change the black community, it would have been done. There's a black church, there's a Christian church, there's a church of Christ in every black hood. And within 5 minutes of that church is prostitution, homelessness, abuse, all types of evils, any type of evil in the world within 5 minutes. You drive past the 7-Eleven and the liquor store on your way to church. You about to go get holy and about to go get right and all this type of stuff. And all around you, whatever it is, your message, however strongly you believe this stuff, it still hasn't translated into affecting and changing the situation for black people. So there must be something different. There must be something new. I'm not saying that this thing is ever going to be perfect. You always going to have the poor with you. You always going to have evil as long as you have righteousness. You always going to have it. But we all know that this is a disproportionate situation that we're dealing with the black American man, the black American woman, black American child, okay? This is a disproportionate system of oppression for us, all right? I was in the Asian store. I was in the Asian restaurant, Chinese restaurant. His brother, he's up in there. He's ordering his food. So I walk up in there. I'm waiting in line right behind him, and he turns around. He said, "What's up?" He said, "How you doing, brother?" It's kind of aggressive. I'm happy. What's good, brother, man? What's happening? He was kind of aggressive though with that hello, brother. And then the next question came, and he said, "Do you believe in the Bible?" I said, "Yes, I do." I was thinking how I wanted to answer the question. I kind of wanted to say no, because I wasn't trying to go into whatever conversation this brother was about to go into. But he said, "Do you believe in the Bible?" Now, when I said yes, I'm thinking like, hey, if we both are Bible believers and that's what we're going to base our stuff off of, is those 66 books, if we're both going from that, can't we just all get along? The next question comes, the brother says, "Do you believe in the Bible?" And he said, "Do you know that God," he said, "Have you heard of the Holy Mother?" "Yes, I have, brother." He said, okay. He said, "So do you know that there's two gods?" He said, "Have you heard that there's two gods?" I said, "Yes, I've heard that. There's a masculine and a feminine God." I'm answering the brother's question. I'm not looking to debate, because I really wanted to know where he was about to land his plane at. I was like, where's this brother? Because, it's a young brother and he's passionate. He might have been a couple years younger than me, but he was passionate. So, whenever you see somebody passionate and confident, I'm not trying to kill their spirit or nothing. I'm just listening. I'm just listening to what he's talking about. I said, "Yes, I have. I've heard of the masculine and feminine God." Dude, I've learned this stuff a decade ago. I've learned, dude, and he's talking to me real passionate. And then he said, and so I'm thinking I've answered like 5 of his questions. Yes. And so I'm thinking, I'm like, when is this brother gonna get in a mindset of like us being on the same page? This is the same week as the Jalen Walker shooting. The shooting where Jalen Walker was murdered by the public servants. He was murdered by, I think, 6 white public servants, murdered him, talking about something with a traffic stop, and they shot him 60 times. I think the bullets hit him 60 or 70 times, And so I'm really in that mindset. I remember that day I was really in that mindset, like about our people and the public tragedy that had happened with our community. And this brother is sitting in my face, and he's talking about the Holy Mother and the Bible and everything. And then he goes in to start talking about the 4th commandment. He said, "Brother, do you know what the 4th commandment is?" And I said, "What's the 4th commandment?" And he says, "Keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy." I said, "Oh yeah, this is a Friday." He said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm working tomorrow." He said, "Why are you not gonna keep the Sabbath day holy?" So I'm like, oh, so he was just looking for whatever question I answered something different to. He was about to argue with me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Y'all, this is why I say you don't argue with anybody, man. Christ never argued. If someone don't accept your message, or if you have a message, but one, you really don't have to teach nobody nothing. Remember, I said your religion is your own personal thing. Church is a great support. It helps and can support you on that journey. But Judgment Day, all the veil is off. Judgment Day, everything that's been in darkness gets brought to light. Your minister can't stand up there with you. I had a great Bible school teacher when I was a young person, um, Brother Cecil Houston. He was the youth minister at our congregation. He used to always say this phrase. It sticks with me to this day. He used to always say, "You are." He would say, "You all are the Bible scholars." Talking to the junior high class and the high school class, he used to always say, "You cannot depend on nobody else to know this stuff more than you do. You're the Bible scholar. If this thing is going to make sense for you, it's going to have to make sense to you when you're being challenged. If this thing is going to make sense to you, it's going to have to make sense to you when you're by yourself, when you're away from your parents, when you don't have your church family, when you don't have no church brothers and sisters around you, when you're in the midst of evil. It's going to have to make sense to you then. You have to become the Bible scholar of your own religion. You have to become the Bible scholar. You have to know this stuff. This stuff has to be in you. When Christ was being tempted and challenged, he was not like, hold on a second, let me go study that. He already knew. He responded based on what was already in him. So this brother is sitting. We're in the Asian restaurant. The Asians are right there looking at me, ready for me to do my order. And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm just listening to us. I wanted to see where he was going to land his plane. And then when he started talking about the Passover, I saw what he was talking about. He's talking about, I'm part of the so-and-so society of God. He said, we're the only true church. So I was like, oh, this brother was ready to argue from the jump. This brother was not even looking to see if I was a fellow believer. He just was assuming from the jump that you're not a part of this. I'm like, this the type of brother who the white supremacists are sitting there. You lined up to fight some white supremacists. It's a line of you brothers and a line of the white supremacists. And he's over here, brother, do you keep the Passover day? And I'm like, brother, not right now, brother. The white supremacists are over there and they're about to shoot us. They have the guns pointed at us. We need to, we need to load up and we need to be ready and to be defensive. And he, brother, you don't keep the fourth commandment, brother. How do you call yourself a Christian if you don't keep the Lord's Day and the Sabbath day? I said, well, I understand it from a different aspect. Well, what aspect is there other than that? If the commandment says it's the fourth. So now this brother's getting a little argumentative. I'm like, brother, I said, I'm not interested in studying it from your perspective. I said, I hear what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying. I appreciate you sharing. The brother couldn't let it go. The brother had to, he needed somebody to be right against. So finally, he kept talking, and he said, did you know that Jesus came back as a Korean man? I said, oh my goodness. I said, did we jump from worshiping a white Jesus to a Korean Jesus? Go back and watch my video about black Jesus. People had issue with me talking about it being a black Jesus, so I had to reframe it and say, okay, let me talk about the African Jesus, because he definitely was African. And people still had issue with that. Oh, it don't really matter what color he was. Listen to me, black family. If somebody ever tells you it does not matter who Jesus, what his color was or whatnot, that's a lie. It's just a lie. They're telling you to follow somebody. They're telling you to give your life to somebody, but it don't matter what he looked like. It's just the principle that matters. If it's just the principle that matters, then the Christianity don't matter. Just follow the principles. It don't matter about nothing. Everything's just principles. That's the craziest thing I always hear. How do you tell somebody that doesn't matter? You need to give your life to this person. You're a sinner, and this person came down here, and I'm like, well, who was the person? Tell me who he was. Tell me what about him. And you can't tell me that. You tell me, don't worry about that. Don't focus on that. Just focus on the fact that he died for you. He died for you. Who was the man? Who saw him? Tell me who saw him. Who saw the man? Who can tell me what he looked like? Who can tell me what he was? Don't worry about that. Look, white people worried about it. That's why anytime you go on to Google right now and type in picture of Jesus, you're gonna see nothing but white people. When white people are the minority in the world, it's all over the world. It's colorful people. It's all color. Black people are the original people in the world. Just another video for another day. So this brother, getting back to my story, this brother, I can't remember this brother's name. I want to say this brother's name was like Damien. That's very interesting. Demon, that's very interesting. But yeah, I think this brother's name was Damien. And he starts talking about Korean Jews. Y'all, the moment he started talking, now I wasn't about to argue with him at all. I was just asking him questions and stuff like that. I was just listening to him. But the moment he started talking about a Korean Jews, I said, oh, I got to stop this brother now. So I asked him one question like this here. He said Christ came back as a Korean man. He named the name of the man. And so finally, I asked him a question. Remember what I told y'all. All Christ did was ask questions. He taught, He asked questions, and if somebody did not receive the message he was sharing, he just dusted his shoes off and kept moving forward. And he would rebuke. There would be times where Christ would rebuke, especially the real religious people, but he wouldn't argue. He would rebuke. He would just, stamp them out, let them know, hey, y'all is of some other stuff. I'm not on that. And he would still keep it pushing. So what I did was I asked him a question. I said, brother, so do you worship Jesus? His face, he was stuck. Didn't know how to answer the question. That's a yes or no question, right? That's a yes or no, either yes or no. He said, well, you have to understand the ancient civilizations in their view of things. So I asked him again. While he started ranting, I said, no, brother. I just listened to you for about 10 minutes, brother. Do you worship Jesus? No. He said, no, brother. Christ was the Savior for the past 2,000 years. But there's a Korean man named Oshalakade. He said some type of name. And I said, so he couldn't answer the question of yes or no, did he worship Jesus? So I'm like, brother, you've asked me questions. You said, have you heard of the Holy Mother? I said, yes. Have you heard of there being two gods? Yes, I have. Have you heard of the masculine and feminine God? Yes, you have. Do you believe in the Bible? Yes. I'm giving him straight answers. Because when you know what you know, you can do that. When you don't know and you're insecure about what you know, you have to go and prove yourself right by finding somebody else you feel is wrong. This gets us back to white supremacy. That's what we're really focusing on this channel, but I'm just we had to take a little series break based on all the questions I'm getting, all the things I'm seeing with black Christians. I'm like, man, we can't really get to the promised land when we're still arguing over the instruments. So finally I said, brother, I said, do you worship the Korean man? This brother they done gone from a white Jesus to now it's a Korean man. Still no black. I said, do you worship? And he could not answer the question. I asked him 3 questions. Do you worship Jesus? He couldn't answer. Do you worship Jesus? He could not answer. I said, so do you worship a Korean man? He could not answer the question. Then the brother, and I'm saying, I'm just sharing this story with y'all because it just recently happened. Then the brother said, he said, well, if you'd like to learn more, I can sit down and study with you. Why would I want to sit down and study with you when you're just arguing, brother? You're not even answering my questions. You cannot answer my questions of who you worship. You do not know who you worship. You don't know if you worship Jesus or not. You don't know if you worship the Korean man. I'm asking you simple questions based on what you're saying. So then I said, well, brother, I'm going to just continue studying on my own and doing my thing and whatnot. He said, well, you can't study on your own, brother. He said, you can't go on Google and study the Bible because the internet is controlled by Satan. Okay, brother, I got my food's ready, brother. I'm going to talk with you later. I grab my food. I'm out the door. He's like, let me give you my church website. Brother, you just said that the internet is controlled by the devil. You said I cannot go and study the Bible on the internet because the internet is controlled by Satan and the devil. And now you're telling me that you can give me your church website to go and study on you and your church denomination. Do you understand? I'm telling y'all, Christ was a master at this. Christ was a master. All he did was ask people questions. They'd come to him, Master, a woman had a husband and he died, and then she married another man and he died, and she married another man, and this happened 6 or 7 times and they all died. When they get to heaven, whose wife is she? Christ said, you are mistaken. In the resurrection, they are neither married nor given in marriage. They came to Christ another time. They told Christ, tell us this, tell us that. I'll ask you a question. Whose son was David? Oh, Christ was a master at the questions. He was a master at staying silent, and he was a master of letting people feel they were right, do what was right, and move on from him. Once I understood that aspect, it freed me up in Christianity. When I had the aspect of, I'm talking to y'all from my own perspective. I used to have to be right. There's certain people I've argued with back in the past. I used to fight with them back in the past. I used to be like, man, you ain't really a Christian if you ain't doing it like this. You know what I'm saying? Once I got over that mentality and started understanding, Christ wasn't like on none of that. Christ wasn't on none of that. He would talk sometimes and everybody would leave him. It was cool. His me- you need to understand as a Christian, your message ain't for everybody. You just need to make sure that when God comes and has a message for you, that you have an ear to hear it. And you can't have an ear to hear. You know how your parents used to always tell you you can't be listening because you're talking. You can't be listening because you're talking. Some of y'all cannot hear the message that Christ is trying to give you because you're just focused on proving a point. You are focused on being right. But I. Your parents trying to give you a instruction, give you a message, give you some advice, give you some game, and you're just focused on what you have to say, so you cannot listen. Get out, pray. Get out of that mindset. Get out of that mentality where you have to be right. What's right is already right. What's true is already true. You serve a creator who created all things. It doesn't matter if you go deeper with the knowledge. Listen. Do y'all remember the scripture where Christ said, there's so many more? He was talking to his disciples in the book of John. He said, there's so many more things I want to tell y'all, but you just aren't ready to hear it. Christ said, there's so many more things I want to share with you all, but you all are not ready to hear. You know why? Because his disciples were still arguing over who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And to them, it was really important. They were talking about which one was first chosen, which one was first selected. And Christ said, unless you are like a child, you won't even make it. You know why he said that? Because the child has humility. A child knows he don't know things. And that's why the child is always asking why. The child is always trying to learn. The child is always saying, Mommy, what's that? Mommy, what's that? Daddy, what's this? He's always trying to learn. She's always trying to learn. And then we just get so Christianized and we get so sanctified and we stop trying to learn. We start trying to be right all the time. Immature adults. Silly. Just silly. Can't hear nothing because you're too busy trying to talk and prove points and be right and look to see who to your left and who to your right. Y'all, I know churches that have excommunicated whole churches of men, women, and children. And these are black people. Black people, we all in the same situation. All of you can walk out your door and your children cannot come back today. Your children can be driving, get stopped at a traffic stop, and not come back home. And y'all are still choosing to argue over communion style and worship style and stuff that don't even matter for Judgment Day. Stuff that don't even matter for Judgment Day. Everyone's going to Judgment Day. Everyone. Everyone's going to have a time where their heart is weighed. We're arguing over stuff that does not matter. And in order for us to go to the next level, a mature adult nation, a mature adult people, a mature adult group can get past the arguments. I'm not saying that they're not going to be there. They can get past them. They can also understand, I don't need to be arguing with anybody. Christ didn't do it. So when you're arguing with somebody, some of y'all argue with people on Facebook, y'all write a long post, y'all write 7, 8, 9 different verses up in there, and then y'all get off Facebook and y'all feel good. Y'all have done the work of God. Silly. Straight embarrassments to yourself. We got to get off that. We got to get off that, Christian family. We cannot be on that no more. We can't be on that to get to the next level. You got ministers in the church who are trying to get y'all to meet. Remember when Paul was talking, he said, I'm trying to get y'all to meet, but y'all just want the milk? I'm trying to give y'all meat. Keys Ministry, we do meat over here. We do meat. I deal with meat. This is meat. We deal with meat. We deal with the deeper things. We're not dealing with milk. Don't come over here talking about instruments and style of worship. Don't come over here talking about what are the 5 steps of this and what are the 5 steps of that and what's the proper way to do this and that. We're not dealing with milk. If you want to deal with milk, go to church. If you're scared, go to church. If you want milk, go to church. We're done with milk. I'm lactose intolerant. This is lactose intolerant Christianity over here. We're not dealing with milk. No milk. This is lactose intolerant Christianity. This is completely vegetarian. This is non-vegetarian. This is we like meat. Chicken, 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 chicken. We're not dealing with milk. Too many black churches, too many Christian churches. Y'all sit there, y'all stone the people who go out and get the knowledge and come back and try to give you the knowledge just because it's something you don't know already, just because it's something you haven't studied. So you want to stone someone who's coming back and giving you all some knowledge. I don't have to be on here talking to black Christians at all. I could just be talking to black people. I talk to black Christians because of the fact that's what I come from. I come from black Christianity. I come from Christianity. So it's only right that when I've gone out and studied what I've studied and got the knowledge I've gotten, I come back and bring it back to my people. There's a book called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, and he talks about this. He says, look, the biggest miseducation of black people is they go out, they get all this knowledge and information, and they don't bring it back to their community. I'm doing that. Many of your ministers have done that. Many of your ministers, bless my dad's heart. My dad's a minister. A lot of you all don't know that, but my dad is a minister, and he has knowledge. I mean, people ask him to go out and speak at things. My dad's gotten knowledge from a lot of different places, and he's a MFT, a marriage and family therapist. So he has a lot of knowledge counseling different people. I mean, he's counseled certain people that are, very wealthy, well-to-do people. He's counseled them all. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to marriage, when it comes to family, and he used to try to come and bring that information back to his home congregation, and the people would stone him because they didn't like the brand of marriage book that he was talking about. People sitting there on their third marriage, 3 kids out of wedlock, and they sitting there talking to him because they don't like his style of presentation. They don't like the brand of the marriage book or the marriage textbook, or it wasn't from the same denomination that they wanted, and he's trying to give them the knowledge. I used to tell my dad, my dad's a lot more patient than me with people. I'm not patient with people. I've really struggled with the patience thing. So for me, I'm like, Dad, dust your feet off and go find a church who would hire y'all and pay you hundreds of thousands to give the same information and knowledge that you have that other people are rejecting. I told my dad that almost all my adult life. Other people have told my dad that. He still just be patient with people. He still be patient with people, not me. And y'all not going to bring that energy over here to Key's ministry, because over here I'm not going to argue with you. This series right here about why Christians argue, this is about it for me. This is about all I'm going to be doing, talking specifically to Christians in this way. Right after this series, we're going to get right back on the black history, right back on the African history, right back on the church history, right back on our connection and relationship with the Christian religion as slaves and descendants of freedmen in America. We're getting right back to that, but we had to establish this because so many of y'all wanted to argue. So many of y'all want to argue, and so we can't get on to meat. As I said, we're lactose intolerant. We're not dealing with milk no more. You want milk, you want to sit here and talk about the same old things and keep getting fed milk, you go ahead. And you know why y'all reject some of this information and knowledge I'm talking about? And y'all reject some of the information and knowledge that your ministers talk about when they're trying to go and push things further and be more progressive? You know why you reject it? Because when you get so comfortable without having meat, when you eat meat again, it makes your stomach hurt. If you have ever gone for a few months without having meat, the next time you eat meat, your stomach's gonna hurt. Might vomit, might throw up. And that's fine. I had no problem. We've been on this thing for 4 years, going on 4 years now. Keys Ministry, we've been going on this for 4 years. Some of these videos on this channel don't even have more than 20 views. This thing is about me and God. This don't have nothing to do. Y'all can choose to accept or reject the message. It don't bother me, not in any sense. I would hope y'all, the Christianity thing is going to be going on when I die. I'll be gone in 30, 40, 50 years at most. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not like this Christianity thing. This is y'all's. Y'all gonna keep going. The next generation gonna keep going. Then the next generation gonna keep going. And the same with the black culture. I'm not about to change everything in my lifetime. I'm just about to push it forward as much as I can. And when I'm gone, hopefully the next person picks up the baton and keeps running that 4 times 100 meter relay. This is a relay, as my brother Nipsey say. It's a marathon. No one, you trying to be right means that you haven't learned. You haven't realized this world ain't your home. You don't try to be right when you're not at your home. You understand that this world's evil. You realize that this ain't the home. You're not trying to be right with nobody. You're not arguing with nobody. So remember the messages, y'all. Remember the message. No example of Christ. There's no example of Christ at all arguing with anybody. He either rebuked people, he taught people, or he moved away from people. And he asked questions. He was a master at asking questions. Remember that you don't argue with anybody, and you definitely do not argue or debate with people who have not read the book. If they have not read the book, and I'm talking about the complete book, don't let them give you no excuses about, well, I don't think it's necessary to. Okay, well, if it's not necessary, it's not necessary for you to be arguing with me. You haven't read everything. Come back and go read, and then come back and talk to me. And then we can talk and have a conversation and tell me if what you're arguing about is as important after you get done reading Genesis through Revelations. Now tell me, at the end of Genesis and Revelations, you want to still focus on instruments, brother? That's what you want to focus on. That, just let me know. After you've read Genesis through Revelations, the Word of God you've just read the whole Word of God as far as what you have, the 66 books that you have, and nothing else hit you but to come to me and argue about instruments. Nothing else came to you but to argue with me about, did I say the plan of salvation at the end of a sermon? Y'all, man, no arguing. We stopping the Christian arguing. That stuff needs to be shut down. I encourage ministers to shut all that down. Or if I was a minister in the church, as I said, I don't have the patience that a lot of ministers have with people. So I'm, y'all can still message me. I leave my email on here. I love talking and debating and reasoning with people. I love reasoning with people. I'm not gonna argue with nobody. The Bible is a double-edged sword. You don't argue and swing the sword around fighting your brothers and sisters. And even if it is the brothers, my home congregation, the minister at my home congregation, he gave a great sermon the other day where he gave a great sermon talking about considering the soul. And he talked about, look, so many of these people who come in here, they're seeking answers, and you run them away because they don't believe what you believe. You have no problem with these people at giving you your food at Starbucks, giving you your food at Chevy's, he said, but you got an issue with them coming to church and getting up there and singing, or getting up there and leading communion, or you got an issue with them coming up to church because they sit there and they're in a homosexual relationship. See me, I can't talk about this stuff at a pulpit. Y'all stoned me at a pulpit, so God sent me out here to the wilderness to talk about this stuff. And to be honest with y'all, I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of ministers too. A lot of ministers, they really love y'all. They really have patience with y'all. They care about the people. They have a very caring spirit for their flock. And they can't lead y'all on. They're trying to get you on the other side of the Red Sea, and y'all are arguing with them about, I don't think Moses should be the one leading us across the sea. I think Aaron should do it. And the Egyptians, they running right behind y'all about to capture all of y'all and put y'all back in slavery. We dealing with white supremacy out here, y'all. All of our children are getting killed. All of our brothers and sisters. We're in fear for all of us. We're the most disproportionate group in the prison system, in chains still to this day. And we arguing still. Got 3 black churches all right next to each other, and all of them talking about the other one ain't really saved. Man, we got to get past this and become a mature people, y'all. Y'all go ahead and hit the Cash App. As I've said before, I am not supported by any church ministry. I hope so. I hope one day that there will be a church I'll be supported by and continue giving this history. But right now, that's not the case. And I want to be on here more often with you all. I definitely would like to be on here more often. But, this world is not our home. And in this home that we're in, this world that we're in, money is king. That is what it is. So definitely go ahead, support this energy, support this so I can continue to get on here and continue speaking what I speak. The Cash App will be in the description box. If you have other forms of payment, other forms of cash payment, let me say that, other forms of cash payment, y'all can email me. Definitely email me. Y'all continue on. Stay encouraged. There's a lot happening. The black family is being attacked in many different ways right now. We're being attacked through media. We're being attacked physically from police. We're being attacked politically by policies that are being made against us. We're being ignored with the reparations that we need as a community for work that we've done, for mistreatments that we've had, and we're still expected every day to get up and go to work, get up and work for this system. No one's waiting around for us. No one's slowing down for us. They're just letting other people in the country and giving those people money. So y'all, we're going through a lot. We're going through a lot. We don't have time to argue. Don't have time to argue at all. We need to be thinking as quick as possible. How can you from the Kojic Church, and you from the Baptist Church, and you from the AME all get together so that don't none of our kids ever get killed again. All right? That's it. Why Christians argue. That's part 3. That's it. Stay blessed, y'all. Peace.